Thanos wins.
So, this issue, I was actually unsettled after reading this issue, and after I thought through some of the implications of the story in this issue. It kind of feels like a sort of really dark, it's almost sort of like evil or wrong in a way, but then again, so was the original Infinity Gauntlet. I was pretty unsettled after I read that the first time too, so I guess that Donny Cates and Jeff Shaw are doing their job. So this arc is called Thanos Wins, which is this series, Thanos. It started off being written by Jeff Lemire with art by Mike Deodato. Jeff Lemire left, and I just wasn't going to pick it up, but then Mim Headroom did a video on issue 13, which was Donny Cates' first issue, and he was really impressed with it, so it got me into it. So now we're 3 issues into this arc, and you can see here that the art is really good. Artist, once again, is Jeff Shaw. There's going to be all the spoilers for this issue, by the way, because there's some pretty big things that are revealed in it. So Thanos looks into Ghost Rider's skull, and Ghost Rider does the penance stare on him. This would cripple most people. They would just be so overcome with the horror of the things that they've done that they would just roll into a ball and try to claw their own eyes out. But Thanos does it, and he finds it refreshing. To recap the story thus far, Thanos has gone back to his conquering ways, and he had overcome the Chitauri when the Cosmic Ghost Rider took him into the future, where he met his much older self. By the future, I mean millions of years in the future. And it turns out that old Thanos needs young Thanos' help with something. Up till now, young Thanos hasn't known what. So old Thanos, or King Thanos, is sort of leading young Thanos around, and we find out that he hasn't seen Lady Death in hundreds, maybe thousands of years, even though he's done all these things to it. The planet that he's on right now, this sort of hellscape that you can see here, is Earth. So he has taken over Earth, he has taken over all of the superheroes. The idea behind this arc is that millions of years in the future, Thanos has beaten basically everything that could have posed any kind of threat to him. He's killed, countless people, countless souls, just to try to please his mistress, Death, and she's still not giving him the time of day. So here we see King Thanos reminiscing about it, and now he tells young Thanos what he's after. He says that there's one foe that he needs to beat, and then he'll give her everything. And young Thanos asks who it is, and King Thanos says, the Fallen One. Now, I didn't know who the Fallen One was, and I actually looked it up before doing the review. The Fallen One was Galactus' original herald before the Silver Surfer, who apparently went evil and was powered by a dark form of energy, and Galactus basically just felt that he wasn't representing Galactus well enough, because Galactus considers himself above good and evil, so when somebody is doing genuinely evil things, it makes him look bad. So he banished him, but he's come back several times, and Thanos has defeated him multiple times before. So when King Thanos says who it is, Thanos reacts with surprise. It's because he can't believe that his older self, who's done all these terrible things, that he can't believe that the Fallen One of all people, who young Thanos has beaten multiple times, would pose any kind of threat. So then young Thanos is interacting with the Cosmic Ghost Rider here. So this has been one of the big mysteries of this series, is who is this Cosmic Ghost Rider character. And the obvious assumption was that he was Deadpool. He looks kind of like Deadpool in the sense that he's kind of tall and lanky. He moves like Deadpool. He talks like Deadpool. He has the connection with Mistress Death that Thanos does, so Thanos may well have believed that, if he can't beat him, join him, and so he just joined forces with Deadpool, who somehow got the Ghost Rider. Obviously, by the way I'm talking, you can guess that it's not Deadpool, and the reveal is really surprised, and it's, to the people who read this, it's going to be controversial. So that's the main reason why I'm making the review, is just to talk about who this guy is. So Thanos flat out tells him, it's like, I don't know much about the Ghost Rider, but I thought you punished evil. And Ghost Rider's like, yeah, I just don't care anymore. And he's going down to feed the dog, and we find out that the dog is the Hulk, who is apparently millions of years old and is just still around, and has just been, for whatever reason, Thanos keeps him as a pet. So this is one of the things where I started to get unsettled, whereas you see the Hulk, and the Hulk just looks so pathetic. He begs young Thanos for death, which obviously he doesn't give him. And then you look a little bit closer at this pit of bones, and I don't know how well this is going to come through the GoPro, but at first it just looks like a pile of bones, but then you notice something, like these arms here look like Dr. Octopus's arms. This hand here, it's shiny and it has 3 claws coming out of it. This guy's wearing Thor's shirt. There's Captain America's shield. So somehow they tamed the Hulk and literally fed him the Avengers. And yeah. So this is where we see just how depraved Thanos has been. And he's gotten so depraved that he just doesn't even care about it anymore. Ghost Rider is talking to Thanos, and he says, everyone's got a little darkness in him, right? And he's explaining why he just doesn't care about the whole Ghost Rider thing anymore. And he says, oof, you should have heard the shit that came out of Steve Rogers' mouth when we fed him to the dog here. Ha ha, man, oh man. So, in Infinity Gauntlet, in the original Infinity Gauntlet, Hulk was one of the few heroes that Thanos didn't just flat out kill. He, banished him to another dimension or something, suggesting that it's actually really difficult to kill him. So it's possible Thanos may not have found a way to kill him, so he just did this instead. So it's, the sight of all these superheroes in this apparently having been eaten, it's pretty macabre. And then Ghost Rider continues talking. I used to be a totally different guy, all broody and dark and mysterious, like real downer. If you'd met me back in the day, you would have never recognized me, and I don't just mean because of all the melted face, flaming skull stuff, neither. Sometime in hell, a few hundred years as a herald of Galactus, and a couple million more hanging out with you, it's enough to make a fella go pretty hilariously insane. So once again, right, he talks like Deadpool. But the character he just described about being dark and broody, that doesn't really describe Deadpool. It describes a lot of people, but it doesn't describe Deadpool. So then, the next page is the reveal of who the Cosmic Ghost Rider is. Now, whomever you're thinking, you're probably wrong. If you haven't read this issue yet, and you don't want to know, this is kind of a big deal. Thanos says, Rider, do I know you? And Ghost Rider says, ah, gah. Look how rude I'm being. Frank Castle. Yeah. Of all the people, and Thanos flat out says he doesn't know who that is. So Thanos never knew the Punisher. And I had to think about this for a while, probably more than you're thinking I did. I had to think, do I like this, or do I hate this, or what? We see that Thanos has defeated all of these very powerful people. And the lead up to this explained even more detail all the things he'd done to get to this point. So, the thing about the Punisher, I'm not sure exactly where they're going with. They don't go any more into the origin of this guy. That's apparently next issue. But the thing about the Punisher is that whatever you think of him, whatever you think of his methods, whatever you think of his war on crime and his, whatever, the one thing about Punisher that anybody can respect is that he seems to be truly incorruptible. A lot of people probably think that that's probably the most galling part of Secret Empire, is because Punisher falls for that, because it's not in his character to do that. Punisher has done, he's made peace with the fact that he's just going to do really awful things in the service of his getting revenge on all of crime. He's made peace with the fact that he's going to eventually meet some sort of horrible, violent end. So, this thing here, if he had ended up in this pit, it would have been unfortunate for him, but it wouldn't have been too bad, because he knows in his heart that his war is a losing war, and that eventually it's going to kill him. So what is the worst thing that could happen to Punisher? the worst thing that could happen to him is, what if he had all of the power to stop evil, to stop any kind of evil, and he just simply gave up using it? Ghost Rider is unbelievably powerful. Like, assuming that he's possessed by the same spirit of vengeance that Johnny Cage and Danny Ketch and the rest of those guys were, Ghost Rider is incredibly powerful, almost god level. The only thing that holds him back is that Johnny Blaze is an idiot who doesn't really care to learn the finer details of it. But if somebody like Punisher were to get a hold of it, basically nothing would stop him. And not only that, Ghost Rider can sense evil, and he can't die, essentially. So all of the criminals and stuff, he would know who the bad people were, and they wouldn't be able to kill him. So he would have all this power, but Thanos, whatever happened, and I guess we'll find out next issue, Thanos managed to take the one guy that seems to be truly 100% unfallible integrity, and he turned him into this joking, passive, like power. So, this is an example of how Thanos is just unstoppable. He can overcome anything, including even someone's unbreakable moral code like the Punisher. So it just shows how he's able to corrupt everything and just destroy everything good and reasonable in life. Continues. Thanos and King Thanos have it out a little bit. Yeah. So then we get to the last thing here where the Fallen One finally shows up. And Thanos is still just really peeved off that his older self is having trouble beating a guy that Thanos beat multiple times in the past. And King Thanos says, "Oh yes, I suppose you wouldn't know, would you? The Fallen One is not a being, not a man. It's a title." So we see the Silver Surfer and whatever the hell this thing is behind him, but apparently Silver Surfer allowed himself to be corrupted too, and has this coterie of evil-looking beings behind him. So, yeah, Thanos once again proves to be unstoppable, and just seeing all these like heroes just completely debased and destroyed like this was frankly, like I said, it was unsettling. Actually, not long after I finished this, I finally finished the Secret Wars trade paperback, and towards the end of it, yeah, so there's a moment towards the end. This is a spoiler alert if you haven't read this, because this thing set up the cosmology of the modern Marvel Universe. So, basically, Doctor Doom is God. He has become God of this new battle world, which is the last surviving remnant of all of existence. And Thanos comes up to him, and he acts really arrogant. He's like, what does he say? He basically says, he calls out Doom, he's a weak god, a pretender, that he wields his godlike power like a mortal, whereas when Thanos held godlike power, he wielded it like a god, dealing out judgment as a god should. And he's just acting really arrogant, and he just does this smile that Thanos is so well known for right in front of the guy who's literally God. And Doom just reaches into his chest and pulls out his spine. And I actually laughed. I actually laughed in like a good cathartic way, because I was just really glad that this evil asshole guy just got what he deserved, that he tried to stand up to someone more powerful than him, and it just completely backfired. Because Doom was not impressed with his whole I am Thanos the Great sort of act. So this book does do a really good job of building up just how evil Thanos is. The thing of it is, though, I don't fully know where the canon for that is coming from, because Jim Starlin, he wrote this like trilogy of books about Thanos not that long ago, a few years ago. And I don't know if those are considered canon or not, but it basically continued his character arc from Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, Infinity Crusade, and continued that arc so that Thanos basically became going from, chaotic evil to sort of neutral. Not good, but he was no longer evil for the sake of evil. He was no longer interested in power for the sake of power. Not only that, this, overt cruelty like this, it's not that Thanos hasn't done that sort of thing before, but it's, for the most part, he just considers it a waste of time. It's like if something deserves to be destroyed, then destroy it, and if it doesn't, well, then find something other way to deal with it. So all of the nobility that Jim Starlin was sort of putting into the character is kind of gone now, and I don't fully understand where that comes from. I know that Jonathan Hickman, he wrote Infinity, where that was where the version of Thanos that you just saw in Secret Wars, that was where that version came from, which was a guy who was just interested in conquering again. So everybody knows that Thanos is obviously heavily inspired by Darkseid. He looks like him, he kind of acts like him, he kind of has similar motivations, he has similar levels of power. But what you may not know is that Jim Starlin originally intended Thanos to be based not on Darkseid, but on Metron. Metron is he's sort of a neutral figure in the war between Eugenesis and Apocalypse. Sometimes he helps out one, sometimes he helps out the other. He tends to be a good guy, but he isn't always a good guy. Metron, he simply wants knowledge more than power. And Jim Starlin went to his editor, and he was like, "Hey man, I don't know if you have been reading Jack Kirby's New God stuff over at DC, but it is like really good. It's like industry-changing good. I want to do a homage to it by making a character that's inspired by the one he's got, Metron." And the editor just looked at him and he's like, "Jim, if you're gonna rip off the New Gods, at least rip off the only cool one." So Thanos became more like Darkseid, and early appearances of Thanos, he looks a lot like Darkseid. Like, they didn't even try to hide it. And for most of his early life, up until the Infinity Gauntlet, he was portrayed as being a tyrant. He wanted power for power's sake, and he just wanted to take over as much of the universe as possible. And then in Infinity Gauntlet, he had everything he wanted, and he messed it up. It wasn't like the heroes made some last-ditch plan and saved the universe. It was that he just simply messed it up. And that's a recurring theme in Thanos' story, is that he doesn't lose like normal supervillains do. Normal supervillains, they, complete 9 out of 10 steps of their plan, and then the heroes stop them at the very last moment. That's usually what happens, but Thanos completes his plan. He gets everything that he wants, and then he just loses it because of insecurities that he has with himself. So this arc is called Thanos Wins, but we know that Thanos doesn't win. Well, he wins until he doesn't win. He doesn't really lose. He just simply pisses away whatever victory or whatever gains he had. And he does this over and over and over again throughout his history. So we see here that, King Thanos seems to have everything that he wanted, and it's usually right before that he is set up for a fall. So who knows where the story is leading. It is disappointing to see that they've gotten sort of rid of that nobility that he was starting to have, because that was kind of interesting, and for reasons I don't fully understand, they're just taking him back to pre-Infinity Gauntlet, when he is just, not only does he want everything, but he's actually capable of getting it. Like I said, it's a little bit disturbing, it's a little bit dark, it's a little bit unsettling, but there is a lot of depth going on here. Any case, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me what you think about the reveal of Cosmic Ghost Rider being the Punisher. In any case, this is Unranked Chevron signing off.